What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Pegasus Lounge. Today on Analyzing Advice, I want to talk to you guys about something very important, and that is motivational speeches, okay? I'm going to make my position very clear, right? Every now and then, a motivational speech is helpful, right? But that needs to be 10%. And in my personal feeling is that it should be even whittled down to 5%, okay? Enough with the motivational fluff. You're already here, you're already doing business, you're already interested in it. You don't need more motivation. You need actionable steps. What do I do? How do I get there? The A to B plan and stuff like that, okay? If whoever your mentor is, whoever you think is who you should follow, that's fine. That's for you to decide, right? But if the stuff that's coming out of their mouth is more motivational fluff, most of the time, there's definitely something wrong with this. Where is the part where you talk more about actionable steps? At some point, you really need to weigh things out. As much as a guy is cool, you like a guy, he's approachable, he's very friendly, comes off genuine, all that stuff. But ultimately, how much advice have they actually given towards real actionable steps towards your business versus, hey, don't give up. Eyes on the prize, you know, love what you do, things like that, right? Persistence is key, all of that stuff. And one of the things that bugs me the most is that more times than not, right, in order to push their agenda, a lot of these motivational platitudes are positioned in a wrong context, okay? I'm going to end up dropping a video specifically on the most common business platitudes that you've ever heard, but zoomed out with a little more context so that you understand the real caveat that you're supposed to say those things in. Like, I'll give you a really quick example, right? When you say things like, comparison is the thief of joy, absolutely true. But that's when you want to say that to a friend who's green with envy and you want to talk them off the ledge, you know, you want to calm them down and just be like, listen, you know, comparison is the thief of joy. You know what I mean? We got to appreciate the things that we have. It's kind of like Thanksgiving. What am I thankful for? But that doesn't mean that we're just blind to making comparisons, because what is shopping actually? It doesn't matter if you're a buyer or a seller. We're always shopping. We're always comparing data. Comparing data is very, very important. Comparing yourselves to other people who are better than you is also very, very important, right? When you think of like the greatest athletes that constantly challenge and push each other, the reason why I am such a great athlete today is because I have such excellent challengers. There's a lot of people who explain things like that. And when you apply comparison is the thief of joy, then, you know, for the sake of joy, we're just not going to challenge ourselves anymore. You see what I'm trying to say? So certain business platitudes, although absolutely true, it's the context that they're applied in that I have an issue with. So today's video comes to us from Resolutions again. Now, the other video that he did, I thought was fun. It was interesting. You know, he was very transparent, just openly admitting like, hey, you know, these are the things that I have like a year later. I thought they would sell and then they didn't sell. I thought that was very useful for you guys. But this time he does a video and I really want you to hear what he has to say. It's 100% motivational fluff. And there's a lot of issues in here just to push his agenda. And you'll see what I mean in a bit.
Yeah, we've all been there. Reselling isn't for the weak. It's a grind. But here's the thing. The difference between the ones who make it and the ones who don't, one word: persistence. In this video, we're breaking down why persistence is the secret weapon of every successful reseller. We'll talk about why most people quit, how to push through, and 3 insane stories of persistence.
You know, sometimes my biggest criticism of reselling itself, right, is that I feel as if people who have a lot more business sense and then realize that, look, reselling is a lot of elbow grease. I have to go back. It resets constantly. When you start noticing that kind of stuff, you're leveling up. You're realizing that this business model is not as efficient as it should be. And there are other business models and other ways to make money that's way more efficient where my efforts compound. To be blindly persistent is a different story, right? That's kind of like saying, hey, I think there's something wrong with this business. How can we streamline stuff? How can we avoid stuff? How can we make this a little bit easier? How can we compound our efforts? No, be quiet, stay persistent, keep your head down, and just keep doing the grind. That's not cool. You know what I mean? Because then you're blind to what is actually happening. And in my other video where I explain specifically, right, what is actually happening in your business as a reseller and doing a full whiteboard scientific approach to it, it explains exactly the nature of the reselling business so that you could see all the issues that are actually happening that a lot of these YouTubers are not addressing.
One from ancient times, one from the 20th century, and one from today's world.
All right, let's hear it.
Because trust me, if they could push through, so can you.
Guys, I will never say those two words to you guys. I will never say trust me, okay? I will always flat out put out my position, okay? If it is an educational video, I will give you the key steps and what is the framework, and it is up to you to decide if I'm the real deal or not. I'm never going to say the two words trust me, because that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't equate to anything, right? Why should you? Why should you trust me? Why should you trust him? Why should you trust any of us? Listen to what we're saying, all right? Some people are full of motivational fluff, and some people actually give you actionable steps, and that's what's most important. If a channel is mostly just going to be, motivational stuff, hey, you got to keep at it, go with the grind, eyes on the prize,
And especially after this video, because Ray Solutions gives you real solutions. Why do most resellers fail? Let's be real. Most people fail at reselling for 3 reasons. Reason number 1, they expect instant success. They list 10 things, nothing sells overnight, and suddenly they're screaming, reselling doesn't work. Newsflash, nothing works overnight except microwave burritos and bad decisions.
Yeah, but that's only because the other half of the resellers tell you that it's really easy to get into, and all you have to do is just pick some stuff around the home, and then the initial reselling process where you finally do your first couple of flips and stuff, it gives you that dopamine hit and it makes you feel good about it, right? It's just that once you get knee deep in it, you realize, wow, this is a lot of work. And when the sales are not catching up to your efforts, now it feels very underwhelming. That's the issue about this. I find it very interesting that, like, many times a lot of these YouTubers, they have videos where they push the idea of reselling as this great idea. You could work from home, like all these pros, right? And then they come back and make these videos about, like, no, it's not what it, you have the wrong expectation. So they sell you on one expectation and then they tell you have the wrong expectation. You know what I mean?
This game takes time. Reason number 2, they give up when gets hard. Maybe they had a few bad sales, maybe they got scammed, maybe the thrift stores dried up. Instead of adapting, they quit.
Why isn't it possible that a person hasn't just realized that there are better ways to make money? There are better business models out there, and that's why they quit, because they leveled up, they evolved into something else, rather than say they couldn't hack it as a reseller. I think that's really counterintuitive and backwards, right? To say somebody like they couldn't make it in high school plays, so they quit and then they went to Hollywood. Shouldn't it be the other way around? You know what I mean?
They punk out, and that's exactly why they never see real success. Reason number 3, they get distracted. Ooh, look over there. Amazon FBA, private label, crypto.
Whoa. Amazon FBA, there's a lot of people who became millionaires off of Amazon FBA. And plus, Amazon FBA is pipelining, right? The earliest people who first did Amazon FBA have seriously made their money. This is back then during, like, when AliExpress was new, and a lot of people didn't understand arbitrage as well as they did now. So you were able to go to Alibaba.com, find something, they will work out the white labeling process with you. Things get shipped directly from China to the FBA warehouse. You're sitting at home in your underwear, and then everything gets done. There's a whole process into this, right? So you put the pain into studying the whole process. But once that pipeline is established, the money just keeps on rolling in. How people ended up getting screwed is because of Amazon Basics. Because once they started doing like really good items and stuff, Amazon's like, oh, okay, cool, I could do that. And then Amazon brings in their own version of it, and then you get squeezed out, right? So that's something completely different. But in the early days of Amazon FBA, it absolutely worked, and it was very powerful. There were plenty of people who did it. My father did it, and he was like 68 years old when he did it. He was able to figure it out because we have actual business fundamentals and understanding. Once you establish the pipeline, it's completely different. Then it's all about maintaining the pipeline. However, when you're doing reselling, it's always about, getting another bucket from the well and going back and forth, isn't it?
Drop shipping, wholesale. Dude, stop. Pick your lane and just drive. Every successful reseller you admire, they got there by sticking with it.
Whoa, hold on. Pick a lane and then just go. It might sound kind of motivational, but what if you're a janitor and you want to level up and then maybe go back to school to, become like a MRI technician or something like that? And then somebody goes, look, that's because you couldn't hack it as a janitor, okay? So you quit and you punked out. You should pick a lane and just keep going. Okay, who's really... All right, let's just hear what else he has to say.
Not by chasing every shiny thing that popped up. And that brings us to the reselling golden rule.
That's absolutely true. Don't chase every single shiny thing that popped up. You should be a little bit more apprehensive about it and then do a little bit of research about it. If you see shiny things, that's fine. You should deep dive those things if it's really bugging you and distracting you and catching your attention, provided that you have the time to do it. That is the better context. Otherwise, keep doing what you're doing until something better comes along.
Success in reselling doesn't come from luck. It comes from showing up every fucking day, no matter how you feel. Business doesn't care about your baby mama drama. Business doesn't care if you have the flu. Business doesn't care if you're motivated or not. Business expects persistence at any cost.
Yeah.
So how do you develop said persistence? How do you stay in the game while others drop like flies?
Yeah, but these aren't the questions that you should be asking. What he said in the beginning in that business doesn't care, 100% true, right? So the issue is, if you get sick, old, or injured, what do you do about it? What did you do in your business to create assets in your business so that there's constant flow of income coming in, so that in case those things happen, you'll still be able to operate at some capacity? If it constantly involves you going out sourcing every single time, like you have to put boots to the ground like every single time, what do you do when you're old, sick, or injured? The business completely stops. And now what? According to him, you're a failure? That's terrible. You know what I mean? We got to build an actual business, a brand, a following, so that we're not always chasing the sale.
Here's how. Commit to the long game. Stop thinking in days or even weeks. Instead, think years. The resellers making six figures today, they started years ago and never stopped improving.
Okay, so he said that the ones who are making six figures today, you mean like this one?
We've done over $260,000 in sales between the two stores. An awesome accomplishment for us to achieve. We were projected to hit close to $300,000 in sales, but as you can tell by this chart, that during the summer, it kind of plummeted whenever I became very sick with morning sickness and could not function that well at all. I remember just spending my days on the couch or in bed.
So some of the truth is always going to find its way to the surface. Right there in the video, she just admitted that when she is sick, the business takes a nosedive. And I've constantly warned against this. People get old, people get sick, people get injured. How do we create security to safeguard around these situations? So I went ahead and pulled up a screenshot of exactly what was shown in the video. So we could see over here that the total sales was 246,000, right? And then the actual item sales is only 153,000. And then shipping and handling, $80,000, taxes and government fees, a little over $12,000. So now the issue is that sometimes you need to take in consideration that running a brick and mortar store versus running an online store. Brick and mortar stores, people just walk in and out, right? So there is no shipping and handling involved. So when you think of a brick and mortar store doing $300,000 in sales versus a online store that involves a lot of shipping and handling doing $300,000, the numbers are completely different. So let's do a quick calculation, right? So let's pull up the calculator over here. Yep. And let's make sure these numbers are roughly correct. So if we went ahead and then we added, right, the 153 plus the 80, right, and then plus the, I don't know, 12.7 or whatever, would have come very close, 24.57, 24.6. It's pretty close. So we could say that this is numbers that we could work with. So here's the thing, right? You got to remember that this is the actual number that the after the sales that we're working with. But the question is, how does eBay actually charge its fees? Well, when you think about it, there was a time where eBay kind of messed up and they only charged the final value fee for the item. They don't do that anymore. They do it for both the item and the shipping and the tax. So when they charge you, 13-ish% on top of your sale, they're taking on top of the whole total, because there was a lot of people who are doing, penny listings and whatever, and then the shipping would be like $25 in order to bypass a lot of the eBay seller fees, right? So here's what we're going to do, right? We're going to take the what do you got here? So 246,480.57, right? And then we're going to go ahead and calculate the eBay fees. So what are the eBay fees? eBay specifically says that most categories are somewhere around 13.25. So we're just going to go ahead and use that. So we multiply this by 13.25%, and then we equal, this is going to be $32,000. Okay. So $32,000 is going to go over to eBay, right? Now, the next thing that we have to do is take this 153 number, right? Which is what they actually sold. So what do we got? 153,638.9. And then we go ahead and then subtract it by the 32,000. And then when we hit enter, it's more like 100, almost 121,000, right? So here's the question. What is the cost of goods? And do you run any promotions and other things like that? So over here, she says,
do we promote and at what rate? Yes, we promote, and we're currently at 8%.
Okay, so it runs like 8% promotion on this thing. And the question is this, right? I don't sell jeans, so I don't know what the cost of goods is. So now I need help from you guys. What do you think the cost of jeans are? She does have a video over here that I did once upon a time, and it shows that she is doing $5 for a pair of jeans, and then she sells it for $15. So if that is the actual case, then you're talking about 25% goes into the cost of goods, right? So if that is the case, then we could go ahead and then multiply this number by 75%, right? And then we hit enter. So they got like $90,000. So it's not really six figures. It's still within the five figures, but it's very close to six figures. But one thing that you have to keep in mind, right, was that they're two people and they're only able to create this much sales because it's her and her husband working. It's not just her alone, right? So if that's the case, we should divide this by 2. Now, this is more closer to what each of them actually make every single year. So if it's 45,000, I'm not saying that this is not a respectable number. There are plenty of people who have this kind of a salary. I'm just saying it's not the same kind of flex that they were saying earlier about being a six-figure seller, correct? This is what I want to point out. A lot of razzle dazzle is in the air when people flex and throw around like these big numbers. What's actually happening over here is you have to consider, why even do this? Why not just get a regular job that has more security and benefits and health benefits and dental? Why sit in a basement full of merchandise that you may or may not get rid of? Like, you can make all the projections you want. At the end of the day, you actually don't really know for some of you out there who probably think that they probably make 50 cents on the dollar, right? So then that would just be half. Then we would just divide by 2, right? And it would be 60,000. And then between her and her spouse, it would be 30,000. So they make $30,000 each.
Learn from failure. Don't fear it. You will fuck things up. You will have shit buys. You will get returns. That's part of the business. The trick is to learn and keep moving. Build habits, not motivation. Motivation goes away like cologne or perfume on a hot date.
Yet he's here doing a motivational speech. You see what I'm saying?
One day you're hyped. The next day you feel like doing nothing. Fuck motivation. Build habits. Listing, sourcing, shipping, it should all become second nature, or what we call muscle memory.
Yeah, that's great. But what happens if the business model is a hamster wheel? We're just going to persistently go at it anyways?
Adapt when needed. eBay changes, adapt. Thrift stores suck, adapt. Fees go up, adapt.
Right. Once you realize that reselling is 100% just a hustle, adapt.
The ones who survive are the ones who adjust. Have you ever heard the name Hannibal Barca? No, not Hannibal the Cannibal. This dude was a legendary general from ancient Carthage. His mission was to take down Rome, the most powerful empire of his time. But there was a small problem. Rome was protected by the Alps, a massive mountain range covered in snow, ice, and death. Everyone told him, you can't cross those mountains with an army. Did he quit? Hell no. Hannibal took 50,000 soldiers, 9,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants and marched straight through the Alps in the dead of winter. It took him 2 weeks of sheer hell. Frostbite, avalanches, starvation. By the time he made it through, he had lost nearly half his army. And yet, he still marched into Italy and kicked Rome's ass for 15 years. Moral of the story, if you want to win, you can find a way. No.
Okay, so the Hannibal story, right? I actually watched the History Channel of that documentary a while ago. So here's what happened, okay? Nobody expect an attack from the north, which is from the Alps, because people will say, it can't really be done because that's not a smart thing to do. So they were expecting attack from the south. So when Hannibal showed up from the north, it surprised them because that's where the Roman forces were weaker. But that was during a time where everybody feared Roman expansion, because when the Romans expanded, they demanded tribute from all parts of the land. Hannibal Barca and his people of Carthage was already pushed to the brim, and they had to fight back. They're at a point of urgency where they have to fight the Romans no matter what. And that's why they did what they did. And Hannibal was very resolute in the idea that going from the north is the only path to any sort of victory whatsoever, because that's the only way that Romans won't expect it, because it's absolutely crazy to do so. And in the process, he lost half his army in doing that. Now, did he ever make it as close to actual Rome in Italy to actually threaten SPQR? No, that's not what happened. The reason why the war went on for 15 years, not exactly because Rome was getting their butts kicked for 15 years, but rather they were using the Fabian strategy in order to wear down Barca. Okay, so what they did was that they constantly lure him away from the fight, and then they would retreat. When they retreated, they would attack their supply chains. So they would constantly use like these strange guerrilla tactics, which at the time is very uncharacteristic of the actual Romans, because the Romans, you would think they're super organized front of a military, but instead they used these Fabian tactic strategies, right? And instead, they just kept on luring them out. So eventually what happened to Hannibal was that he didn't have the reinforcements that he needed anymore. And then Rome crushed him like a bug. Now, after he lost, he went into he went into hiding. And then ultimately, what happened to Hannibal Barca at the end? He took poison and died and committed suicide. That's how he ended up.
No excuses. You
No
ever hear
excuses.
of Colonel Sanders? Yeah, the KFC guy.
For those of you who follow my channel, this is going to be great because you guys already know I did a full in-depth on Colonel Sanders and in order to teach business.
Before he was slinging fried chicken across the world, he was just a dude who failed at everything. He was fired from multiple jobs, started a gas station business that failed, tried running a motel and failed again, tried selling his chicken recipe to restaurants and got rejected over 1,000 times.
There is no evidence to suggest that he actually was rejected the whole 1,000 times. In fact, I watched 6 documentaries on Colonel Sanders and read the book. What ended up happening is not even remotely close to what he just said. All right. He was a screw up early in his life because he was a hothead and he got into fights a lot. But when he ran his gas station, he expanded his gas station from a 6-person table to like 140 tables or something like that. Now, what ended up happening is that on the night of Thanksgiving, his hotel burned down. That is crazy bad luck. And then he still had the funds to rebuild it. And the moment he rebuilt it, World War II hit. So that lost traffic as well. Okay. But yet he was still able to tough it out through World War II and survive. All right. So the business is actually still there. It was called like Colonel Sanders, like Sanders Inn or something like that. Now, after World War II ended and there were starting to be good times, he got into even more bad luck because I-75 was starting to be built, and he knew that it would route all of the business away from his hotel, restaurant, cafe. It was called Sanders Court. There you go. Anyways, so what ended up happening is that he knew that he had to pivot and do something about that. Now, what doesn't add up about the whole KFC story is that the first bucket of chicken was sold 4 years before the story of him going out on the road and getting rejected 1,000 times. That's what doesn't make sense. You already have the first KFC established and already sold the first bucket of finger licking good chicken 4 years before his claims of ever going on the road. In fact, the whole franchising business is thanks to both Dave Thomas and Pete Harmon. So this is not a topic you want to test me on.
Let that sink in. 1,000 rejections. Most people would quit after 10, but he didn't. He kept knocking on doors, getting rejected, and improving his recipe.
The thing about Colonel Sanders, okay, is that it wasn't actually a story of resilience and persistence. It's because he's already had a ton of success selling the chicken, okay? Originally, it was in Pete Harmon's restaurants, and Pete Harmon had something like 25 cafes. And at the time, it was called Harmon Cafe featuring the Colonel's Chicken. It was the guy that they hired to paint the sign that thought to himself, you know what would be a really comfort Southern country kind of twang thing if we called it Kentucky Fried Chicken. So the guy who they paid just to paint signs and stuff is the one who came up with the marketing to even call it Kentucky Fried Chicken. But the point is that Harlan Sanders always knew that he had something genuine going on. He had a unique selling proposition. And that unique thing was that back then, fried chicken was just off the menu when it comes to fast food. He found a way to produce fried chicken in under 8 minutes, while most fried chicken recipes all took 30 minutes.
Finally, at the age of 62, he opened KFC. Fast forward, it became one of the biggest fast food chains in history.
Right. Finally, at the age of 62, he sold the first bucket of KFC, right? However, if you go check out all the documentaries, they talk about how he was 65 years old or 66 years old while he was getting rejected 1,000 times. So how is he getting rejected on the road 1,000 times after he already established KFC? What's going on here? When he ended up with the first chain of franchises, it was 600 KFCs where Pete Harmon owned 300 of them. That's the actual truth.
You're never too old, too broke, or too rejected to win, unless you quit.
He knew it was successful.
Let me share with you one last story. Before J.K. Rowling became the world's most successful author, she was just a struggling single mom in poverty trying to write a book. She was broke, living on government assistance. She wrote Harry Potter in cafes because her apartment was too cold. She sent the manuscript to 12 publishers and every single one rejected it. One even told her, "You should get a real job." But did she quit? Hell no. She kept submitting. Finally, a small publisher took a chance on her. Fast forward, Harry Potter sold over 500 million copies and made her a billionaire. The lesson: persistence turns rejection into success.
Okay, that's great. Now, answer me this. Who is the Colonel Sanders or J.K. Rowling of the reselling world? Because you just said that she's a billionaire, right? So who's the billionaire in the reselling world? Right. So this is exactly comes back to my point in the beginning, right? You have to have a unique selling proposition so that you're in the right market when you're doing this stuff. Okay. One thing about J.K. Rowling that you guys can't do is the complexity of the Harry Potter story, what she was able to come up with from the Harry Potter thing to the mythical beasts and all that stuff. You know how much detail is in the whole, like, you know, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, like all that stories, the Sorting Hat, the Professor Snape stories, coming up with all the spells, the potions, and all. It is really deep what Harry Potter is that she wrote, you know, on her own. How many people can do that? That is a very, very unique selling proposition. So she knew what she had. So if publishers are too busy and they're going to go ahead and reject her, that's fine. She'll move on to the next one, move on to the next one. But she was persistent in it because she really, truly had something to believe in. It wasn't just this whole, you know, a feeling that reselling is tough, but him here telling you to tough it out anyways. Colonel Sanders, the same thing. He has actually had success first, and he already sold his first bucket of chicken 4 years before that. So he already had the franchise thing going on. He had more than that whole, like, you know, I only have $105 you know, Social Security check to my name. That's 100% not true.
If you quit after the first no, you'll never get to the yes that changes everything.
So what you're saying is that if I keep at it, I'll be rich?
No, Bruce, that's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that if you keep at it, you won't be broke.
Well, damn. All right.
Keep your eyes on the prize.
But couldn't that just be said about, like, I don't know, going to medical school just to become like an anesthesiologist or something? Like, nothing too crazy, right? Or just become a pharmacist, right? Just keep your head in the books, eyes on the prize, and then get yourself a good job. Why don't you just pull up a whole bunch of videos right now and learn, you know, things that people really want, that are really hiring, right? Like Python or something. And recently in the news, when you think about it, aren't they saying a lot of air traffic control, like, really, really needs to hire people, right? So why don't you just keep your eyes on the prize and then do something like that, and you have a very good paying job. So, I mean, you know, it's going to be more than $60,000 a year. I'll tell you that.
Look, here's the deal. Reselling works when you do. The people who stick with it learn what sells and what doesn't. They build a killer inventory, they get faster, smarter, and more efficient. And ultimately, they create real income that outlasts trends and fads.
Wait, hold on. But you're chasing trends and fads, right? Because when you do one-off items, and in the other video of episode 4, he showed that even he does one-off items. The whole nature of selling one-off items is completely different. How do you build a killer inventory? Any items within your killer inventory, the killer items would have sold off within the first week, and then you have to go get more killer items, don't you? Because they're gone. So the thing is that I'm always going out with this be on the lookout approach to get more killer items. What happens when I don't come across more killer items? Now I got to go to other places to source, build relationships, and do all that stuff. But the point is, that's not the same as building up an iPhone or a Sony camera or something like that. Yeah, those are super technology things. But I also did do videos where people sold slime, people sold handbags, Duck Dynasty with their duck calls. They're not super technical, advanced, whatever, right? They built their social media following. They have a loyal fan base who's knocking down their doors in order to, for them to meet the demand that they have, right? So that is completely different than what he's saying over here with like building up a killer inventory. Even if you were to source 50,000 fresh new items, the ones that are going to sell, which are the killer items that we could categorize them as, they would have just sold right in the beginning, and then the stagnant ones will fall behind. The question is, what do you do with all the other stale listings and the stagnant items, especially all those things that we already spent money out of our capital in order to source? How do we recoup that money back? None of those things are ever really covered in any of these videos. So I'm not just saying about this video because that would be unfair, but in all of the videos, what do you do about it? Many people give you like, what? Don't worry, low STR is okay. You can still be successful. That doesn't make any sense. It makes more sense that if you could recoup your money back, you would be on to the next sale, the next sale, the next sale. It's way more important that your money boomerangs constantly, very quickly back to you so that you're already on to the next sale. So guys, coming back to my original point, be very careful of all those business platitudes and motivational fluff that's out there, because ultimately what they want to do is just constantly pull you back into a business model that you already have a clear sense that there's something wrong with the efficiency of this business model. So don't let them get you down by telling you, oh, you're a quitter, you couldn't hack it in this, when obviously this business model is the simplistic, straightforward side hustle. It's not an actual business. By the time your mind is going to wake up to this and realize, you know what, we should be doing an actual business where we're not getting a bucket from the well back and forth, but rather establishing a full pipeline so that we open the faucet and we get our water direct. Anyways, guys, that is the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you learned something, please consider subscribing. As always, I'll see you guys in the next. Take care. All right, it's time for Highlight the Haters, and today's keyboard warrior comes to us from Joe Ambley 6807. You're a class seller. That's your business. Hilarious seeing you take comments out of context and pretend to be a guru when you don't even have the honesty or integrity to explain your grift. And to that I say, you accused me of being a grifter and then asked me to explain what exactly is the grift. Feels a lot like calling someone a thief and then asking them what they stole.